Happy Tuesday, everybody. It's Holy Tuesday on Holy Week. I'm Carl, pastor here at Redeemer in Niagara Falls. Great to have you. And we're going to look today at two short passages in the Gospel of Mark that talk about what happened on the Tuesday, the last Tuesday of Christ's earthly ministry. So we're going to read from Mark 11:12 to 14, and then jump ahead to verse 20 to 25 of chapter 11 of Mark. It'll be up on the screen. On the following day, this is Monday, when they came from Bethany, he was hungry, and seeing in the distance a fig tree in leaf, he went to see if he could find anything on it. When he came to it, he found nothing but leaves, for it was not the season for figs. And he said to it, "May no one ever eat fruit from you again." And his disciples heard it. Now jump to Tuesday now, as they're leaving the temple. Or as they're coming back in, sorry. As they passed in the morning, they saw the fig tree withered away to its roots. And Peter remembered and said to him, "Rabbi, look, the fig tree that you cursed is withered." And Jesus answered them, "Have faith in God. Truly I say to you, whoever says to this mountain, 'Be taken up and thrown into the sea,' and does not doubt it in his heart, but believes that what he says will come to pass, it will be done for him. Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. And whenever you stand praying, forgive if you have anything against anyone, so that your Father also who is in heaven may forgive you your trespasses." So we know the scene. Now Tuesday was a very busy day for Jesus, especially in the Gospel of Mark. In fact, it takes up about 3 chapters, 11 right through to 13. And lots of things happen. In the course of that one day, Jesus is on a crash course with the leaders in Jerusalem. He has had his authority questioned. He offers a parable about a vineyard and talks about how Israel is losing its rights before God. And long story there. Jesus enters into the dialogue about rendering unto Caesar what is Caesar's. He talks about marriage in the afterlife. He offers a great command in answer to the scribe. He exegetes Psalm 110, the part that asks, whose son is this who David is speaking about? He offers a warning to beware of the scribes. He has the widow's offering that he reflects on. And then he talks a good chunk of time he spends about the end times and the days to come. So a lot is going on Tuesday, but what I found interesting is this little passage about the fig tree. On Monday, he had cursed this fig tree. And then he comes back to it with the disciples on Tuesday, and they ask him, what's going on with this fig tree? And he tells them what's going on. Now, first, something to remember, to know is this. Jeremiah, Hosea, and others referred to Israel as a fig tree. So the imagery of Israel being a fig tree is quite common in the Old Testament. So symbolically, I think we're meant to see that this fig tree is Israel. And the idea is that when the King shows up, when Christ shows up, everything ought to bloom and burst into life. And this fig tree doesn't, so he curses it. And symbolically what he is saying is, Israel, your King has come to you, and you have not burst into life as you should. Because remember, on Palm Sunday, depending on which of the Gospels you read, the people who are cheering Jesus on as he enters into the city, in a couple of the Gospels, it's actually not the people of Jerusalem, but the people who have followed him. And the folks in Jerusalem tend to be a little bit skeptical. Who is this? What's going on? Who's come to town? So he's clearly making a point that Israel is not responding to him as they should. But something more interesting is happening, isn't it? He talks here about faith that can move a mountain. And I'm afraid that too often we get enamored with power. So we read this passage, and rather than pick up, I think, what he's getting at, we tend to get sidetracked. We follow the allure, the siren's call of power. And we all want to be able to have the kind of power that by saying something, it comes to life. We want to be God. God has that power. He speaks and it happens. And we want that power. We want to be able to tap into Christ and say, when we pray, I want Christ to respond. Now, Christ says that that is possible, but I think we jump and we get caught on that and we miss the point. And I think when he moves on from the mountain, he then talks about forgiveness. And I think what he is getting at is he's trying to make a point here, that faith has great power. And then he makes this example about the mountain. But then he turns to forgiveness. Have you noticed that? He then jumps into forgiveness and says, and therefore, I tell you, whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have received it and it'll be yours. Verse 24. Verse 25 then. And whenever you stand praying, forgive, if you have anything against anyone, so that your Father, who is also in heaven, may forgive you your trespasses. I think what he is saying is you need to understand the power of faith. And not because it's beneficial to move a mountain, but because you're going to need all that faith and all that power to be able to forgive. I think Christ is putting his thumb on the depravity of the human heart, that we, of course, get sidetracked with power, when in fact he's trying to tell you, don't you see, you're going to need every ounce of faith just to forgive your brother. And I think that is what he is getting at here. And for me, I look at this and think, what have we done? Have I gotten this way? Have I, and I know it's also a problem with this idea of power because Jesus repeatedly mentions it. Remember earlier when he sends all the disciples out to do ministry and they come back raving about how the demons obey them. And Christ says, don't rejoice because the demons obey you, but instead rejoice because your name is written in heaven. And what he is trying to do there is to dampen and to squelch that lust for power that we have, saying, don't be so enamored with your power. That's not why you're being given it. You're being given it so that you can accomplish what God has called you to, which is, first and foremost, to be the people of the Sermon on the Mount, a forgiving people, a compassionate people, a serving people. So when I look at this, I start to wonder, what is the most stubborn obstacle in my life? What is the most stubborn obstacle that I refuse to overcome? That I refuse to apply the gospel to? Is it forgiveness? Is there people in my life and in your life that we look at and we think, I'm never going to talk to them again. They have hurt me so badly that I can't forgive them. And if I just don't think about them, then maybe I don't have to worry about the fact that I've got this sin in my heart. But one way or the other, forgiveness is the item here. That forgiveness is so incredibly difficult for us that it's going to require enough faith to move a mountain, because forgiveness is a far more stubborn obstacle than a mountain. I think that's what Christ is getting at. And with that, go now into this Tuesday before Easter and reflect on this idea. What is it that you need faith for? What is it that you are trusting God for? Or what is it that you should be trusting God for? Thanks so much. We'll see you tomorrow on Wednesday.